It is 26 degrees centigrade in Abuja. Humidity is 29%. Well, it's changing now. Oh dear. But what can you do? It's nature. We have to just adjust to it as we always have all the days of our lives. Haven't we been doing that? Well, yes, indeed. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. This day, I am Chamberlain Oso.
Well, don't let the weather get to you. Make sure you're drinking lots of water. I want to say liquid. But make sure that you're staying hydrated. That's certainly something you can do. When the temperature increases to, I think we can get up to almost 40 degrees much later today.
Oh, dear.
Yes, it is going to get...
I should be thankful at the moment.
It is going to get... Yes, you should be thankful. Yesterday, it got up to 39 degrees.
Boy.
So there is something you can do. Stay hydrated. Good morning and welcome. I'm Malfe Ogunyosef.
Most certainly a beautiful one, no doubt. This is Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos, and look at the roads the way it is, and look at the skyline that you're seeing there. This is Lagos, as I always say. And what is our weather in Lagos looking like? Something that you really want to know about. You know, the weather is 28 degrees, humidity 95%, and that iconic building you see in there was formerly called the Lagos Race Course. That's why it's called Race Course. If you hear race course, well, that is why. But this is Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos around the central business district on the island here in Lagos. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Yes, indeed. So today in the Senate, you're going to see officers there, the NSA, National Security Advisor, you see the service chiefs, the IGP, DG of DSS, they will be there at the Senate today. Remember, they had appeared previously, but since the NSA and some other officials couldn't make it because they had some prior engagement, they had to postpone it to today, February 13. So they all will be showing, and it's as a result of questions concerning security in the country. They want to find out from them, what are you doing to ensure that everyone is not scared about going about their regular activities? So they hope to provide some answers. But whether it's going to be open or closed sessions, I guess you might as well guess when it comes to security matters. But yes, it will be happening today here in Abuja.
Well, hopefully the public will be able to listen to what is happening there. At least we get an inkling, what the plan is. What exactly is the plan, especially now the states are clamoring for state police. But also happening today, the courts are also going to be listening to that matter you see on your screen. Alleged $6.2 million fraud. Godwin Emefiele's trial continues at the FCT High Court in Maitama. It was just yesterday the EFCC declared his wife wanted. But today, his own trial continues at the FCT High Court here in Abuja. Ayo.
And later on, at the top of the next hour, we will be talking business. And that much ado about the high cost of living is not just from your pockets, not just affecting your pockets, it's also affecting the commodities market. More of that details you'll find when you join us at 10 o'clock for business this morning on Sunrise Daily.
Yes, indeed. The first of the dailies here today is Vanguard newspaper, and the lead story, Buhari's reckless policies triggered current hardship ascribed to Sanusi and Dushomole. So we're about to see something open up here, but it's not the first time that you're getting this kind of narratives. But look at the writers. Previous administration adamant about our appeal for corrective measures, not willing to take advice. Sanusi, I lamented loudly what I saw as reckless policies designed to dehumanize the population. Dushomole, Buhari's aides keep mum. It's a big lead on the front page of Vanguard today.
Well, you see right there on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, there's hardship in the land, says Kano Emir. things will get better, says President's wife. Nigeria almost becoming Venezuela. This is according to PDP governors. PDP Labour molds 1 million naira as new minimum wage. Yeah, you heard right. Citizens suffering from Buhari's policies, according to Oshomole. The story is on page 4. And very closely related to that is the price of petrol, which you see right there. Petrol price hits 700 naira per litre in Sokoto, Maiduguri, others. And that's a lead story on the front page of Daily Trust.
The Guardian newspaper this morning is talking about 113.8 million undocumented Nigerians, saying it raises doubts on the population size of the country. The details of that you'll find on page 6. Look at what you find right there, but part of the infographics, talking about NIN registration, still 32% short of World Bank's 148 million target by June. And the number of the independents to active population ratio 64.36 million. Population under 14, that's under 14 years old, 91 million. All of that details you'll find on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Have a look at New Telegraph. Economic hardship. Nigeria on the road to Venezuela. PDP governors say they are working with APC-led FG to bring down cost of living. And then you see, tell your husband about hunger, starvation in Nigeria. Others ascribe to Emir. Bayero tells First Lady. Nigeria tethering on the brink of unrest will be Buhari's reckless policies responsible for hardship. Shomole. That's New Telegraph.
We'll take a look at what's on the front page of leadership newspapers, very closely related to what we've seen. Hardship, families struggling to meet daily needs. That's the front page of leadership newspapers. You know this has gotten to a head when you begin to see this right on the front page of dailies. Prices of foodstuff rise by 70%. Food inflation hits 33.98%. Barrow hails Tinubu over release of grains. So right there is the lead story on the front page of leadership newspapers. Ayo.
Look at what you have on the front page of the Nigerian Observer. And it's something related to the minimum wage. Due process cooperation needed to resolve minimum wage question. That's according to Nasima. Calls for review of basis for NLC's proposed 1 million naira. Seeks fair, sustainable wage structure reflecting economic realities, workers' welfare. All of that you'll find packed on the front page, and it continues on page 2 of the Nigerian Observer this morning.
All Daily Times pointed states to National Assembly. We want our own state police now. Period. That's how it is right there.
I like that. I like how that is couched, to the point. QED. Yeah. Well, take a look at this one. This Nigeria has this 75 billion naira COVID-19 expenditure document, worthless. Who's speaking? You might want to flip to page 2 to see, just what that is about. Reps Committee tackles Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, insists on submission of proper documents or refund alleged mismanaged money. That is on the front page of this Nigeria.
Business Day is talking about food. And the big story on the front page of the Business Day newspaper, farmers' safety to storage. Food prices in Nigeria under tension. What does all of that mean? You find the details on the front page and the rest of it on page 29 of Business Day newspaper this morning.
Okay, well, yeah, having gone through some of these dailies, one of the issues that stick out on the front page of Vanguard here today is what everybody's talking about, the cost of living and how policies of government are working or not, because many always look to the outcome and the results against whatever policies are out there. But quite instructive is this now. We're getting to see the former CBN governor and the current senator, Shomole, an APC stalwart himself, saying, look, But it's the policies of the former government that got us where we are today. And then the former CBN governor, who was speaking at a particular event there, he was quite categorical, cutting to the chase in many instances. He said the economy was poorly managed and they were not willing to take advice in the last 8 years. And that apart from sycophancy, nothing has been done. Those sycophants are those buying the dollar at the rate of 400 naira and selling it at the rate of 600 to 700 naira. And then he says a boy who has no record of service has a private jet and owns houses in Dubai and England just because he is buying dollars at a low rate and selling them. So, the NSA too did at least to some extent say they inherited a very terrible economy. And so now that all of these are out there, is it an indication of what is to come? Or how do they plan to approach this government? Because many have always said, look, how are they going to go after their successors? Will people not interpret it as political witch hunts? After all, they say they're the same party. But the figures, they say, it didn't just happen today. It was a build-up from the last 8 years to now. But in the meantime, Buhari's aides are quoted here to have said, look, leave the former president out of all of these things. So whether they leave him out of their mouth or out of the investigations in this government, remains the same.
It's going to be very interesting. I mean, this conversation around how we got to where we are, because really somebody really needs to be given an account. I mean, there needs to be some accountability for how we got this deep into this mess. Yes, things were not very pretty worldwide, but we had a breaker. At some point we had a breather when the price of crude oil went up. We had a breather of some sort. How was it that we're not able to, make use of that? But hey, I think that's going to be the headache of the government. Well, they have another headache right here on the front page of The Guardian, looking at what they're also capturing. We know that it's going to be very difficult for you to, make any policy that will be effective without the use of data. Take a look at what The Guardian is saying. 113.8 million undocumented Nigerians raised doubt on population size. How many Nigerians are we? Do we know how many we are? The big question. Sometimes, I mean, we do a registration for not just national ID card. Yes, there's a national ID card, but then there's also the voters card. And then we say our voters register is not something we can rely on. It's got fictitious figures or it's fictitious people. Well, what are we going to do to clean it up? This is the front page of The Guardian this morning, to be able to make decisions that affect us all, to be able to make decisions that are effective from top to bottom. It is important that we pay attention to data. And the most basic of all of the data is even just knowing how many Nigerians there are. When are we going to be able to craft that question? How many Nigerians are there on planet Earth?
And we keep saying this. We cannot play politics or keep playing politics with figures and data. Because if you don't, you say you have palliatives. How many people will you be planning for? If you want to build roads, how many will you be building for? So if you have the wrong figure, you definitely cannot achieve the kind of result you want. So it's up to us now. If we have to do things right, we cannot be beholden to individuals or strongmen or political parties. Figures are figures. Data is data. It is yes or no. It is blue or white or black or blue. If you don't plan properly, we cannot get the results that we want.
Interestingly, that's one of the things that a former minister, former governor of Lagos State, was also speaking about in his book, new book, National Discourse, talking about the intersection between data, empirical evidence, and hyperbole in our national discussions. It's very difficult for us to, speak concretely to things because the data oftentimes is not available. For many years, 10 million children have been out of school. In spite of all of government policies, what dent has been made on that figure? We always ask who did the census to know how many children there are really out of school. How many houses are we lacking? How many houses don't we have? So these things are important. As I've underlined, the most important of all of this is even just knowing how many Nigerians there are. Ayo.
In that conversation about how many we are, Maokwe, is whether or not we're even sincere about getting the right figures? Are we sincere about getting the right figures about who we are? The proposed population, the census that we're about to carry out is not just going to be about people, it's also going to be about houses, landmarks, and all those things. And a lot of spade work has been done already. But is there sincerity across board in the north, south, east, and west of Nigeria that we want to do this right so that we can know how many we really are and how many we need to cater for? So these things are really easy, in my opinion. And we have data all over the place. You have any idea how many phone lines are in Nigeria? Guess. Yes, more than 200 million lines, phone lines in Nigeria. Is that the number of Nigerians we have? No, because there are some of our people who have more than 1 line, 2 lines. In fact, I know one person that has 4 lines, and on and on and on like that. But that's another conversation altogether. Whether or not this government or any government at all is serious about that, that's another conversation to be had. In 2006, Lagos State government didn't just go with the plans or the figures of the federal government. It initiated its own. Are the states ready to do their own now to ensure that they can really account for the people that live within their domains, whether residents or indigents? But my interest this morning is on that story you took, Chamberlain, from the front page of the Daily Times newspaper, when it says, we want our own police now. It is the states telling the National Assembly, we want our own police now. Can the people also say to the governors, we want autonomous local governments? Maybe we start from there. That's my take from the front page of the Daily Times, Chamberlain.
All right, so we'll go on, we'll wrap it up at that point, but we'll return and talk about that particular matter and more when we return in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Now, let me tell you about Safari Valley Eco Resort, the first of its kind in West Africa. Upon your arrival, you are introduced to your butler, who plans your itinerary.
We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the eco park.
So many activities, all in the same premises. Visit the gym or the stables, they have it all. At my break, I'm able to practice my putting.
We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife and how to interact with them.
They used only electric vehicles here. This creates a serene environment. I'm told it's over 1,000 acres. My cabin here sits on 2 acres with a large terrace space overlooking my private swimming pool. Now this is royalty. They have their own farms, thousands of fruit trees. I can also have my lunch here at the waterfall. Quite a beautiful place you have here.
Visit Safari Valley Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
Welcome to the future of gold mining with Japaul Gold and Ventures PLC, where vision meets innovation. We have a bold vision to become a major player in gold, copper, and lithium mining production and refining globally, with a commitment to investing over $600 million within the next 5 years. With continuous exploration at our strategic mines in Nigeria and other countries in the world, targeting production and measured reserve of at least 30 million ounces of gold by 2028, with a world-class gold refinery. Having already secured about 650,000 ounces of gold, presently worth about $1.3 billion in one of our gold mines, we shall scale up to 100 million ounces of gold in reserve and production on or before the year 2033. Japaul Gold, a new dawn shaping the future of minerals mining in Nigeria and other parts of the world. Japaul, partnering for results.
Kana da abubuwa da yawa yau. Ovaltine kyakkyawan zaɓi domin yara masu basira.
We look at the situation of the country generally. From day one, a lot of people wanted to confuse the issue of insurgents fight in the Northeast with the banditry and kidnappings in the Northwest. And I believe they are not really the same. Like I said, the Northwest crisis that has to do with banditry and kidnappings is economic problem. When you look at the situation critically, you will agree with me that most of those bandits always kidnap, some people and ask for ransom, and whenever they are given money, they will release the victims. In many cases, in some cases, when there is a delay, they end up taking the lives of those victims. So when you look at the situation and also look at the problem of poverty, unemployment, hopelessness, and lack of education, particularly in northwestern part of Nigeria. That is the reason why a lot of these incidents happen in Northwest now, because of this crisis.
Governors under the People's Democratic Party arrived in the Oyo State Governor's Lodge for the first meeting of the forum for the year. The meeting is holding behind closed doors to discuss the current economic challenges and security situation in the country, as well as developments within the party. After several hours of the meeting, the governors assert their position on the state of the economy and security.
We have been partnering even as opposition to make sure that we don't bring any distraction. But certainly the monetary policies and the economic policies rest here. And we can see that we know the majority of Nigerians live in the states. And so we are doing so much across party lines on a bipartisan basis within the Nigerian Governors Forum, within the National Economic Council, to make sure that we cushion the effect of this, some of these policies that have far-reaching consequences on our people. We reiterate our call with the state police with appropriate safeguards to avoid any abuse or overreach by any tier of government.
The governors also discussed developments within the party.
Further, the forum passed a vote of confidence in the Iliad Amagun-led National Working Committee NWC of the party and urged it to put in motion the necessary machinery for convening meetings of the appropriate organs of the party from caucus to the National Executive Committee NEC as soon as possible. We are 100% behind Edo, and you can see there is no rancor, there is no division, and we are very much behind the National Working Committee and the state chapter of the party, and indeed the governor, to make sure that we go together in unison, in unity, to produce a successor for our most respected, the eldest governor in the Governors Forum.
The governors pledged to work together to build a strong opposition, while pledging to take the necessary steps to address the impact of the high cost of living in the country.
All right, so yes, indeed, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of those matters. We've got Masai Kazo Akariwe here with us. He is the Senior Advocate of Nigeria and also the convener, We the People. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Nice to be here again.
Well, are we the people asking for state police now?
Oh, this is We the Governors. Just wondering.
No, the people too. I mean, they have a state, but at the moment, yes.
I have long
been... the governors, sorry.
yes, but I have long been a proponent of decentralization of the police force, in keeping with the principles of federalism. Like we had in the First Republic, we used to have, down to the native authorities, the police. And it is clear that there is that our federalism is too weighted on the unitary side. Too weighted. We are actually a federal republic of Nigeria, mostly in name and not in governance structure. We have states, but the states have to come to the center to collect allocations every month. That is really not the principle of federalism, and that was not the principle upon which independence was negotiated. Independence was negotiated, and all regions, the federating units, were in control of their resources, and they paid a tax of 50% to the central administration. But now, the central administration controls everything and gives allocations to the federating units. So even though it is said that there is no one-size-fits-all federalism, but the truth, if truth be told, our federalism is weighted heavily in favor of the center. And it is understandable. We were for 30 years, approximately, under the control of military administration. And the military hierarchy is centralized. So the moment they came into office in 1966, they promulgated the Unification Decree and threw away the regions, and then they centralized everything. But it was necessary when we returned to democracy, it was necessary to go back to the principles of the First Republic. And so we have a dysfunctional situation where the center is policing the whole of the country. In my hometown, the police station there, I don't know who is the DPO now, but it used to be somebody from Gombe State. Nothing wrong with somebody from Gombe State. Perhaps somebody from my village is the DPO in his own state. But the point is, he can't even speak the language. The people don't buy into him. They see him as a stranger element. In fact, nobody in that station is from that area. So they would never report crimes. I recall once going to my hometown, and I told my uncle I was going to stay in a hotel. I told him the name of the hotel, and he says, "Don't go and stay there. The owner of the hotel is a crook, a criminal." He told me that. He will never divulge that to the police. So there are many psychological and sociological reasons why we need to rework our federalism. And central to the reworking of federalism is the policing. And the fact that the police has largely failed, even the army, to contain the rising incidences of banditry and kidnapping is because of this dysfunctional nature of the federalism. I understand that there are large spaces in Nigeria, particularly in the north, that are completely unpoliced, ungoverned, completely unpoliced. I have traveled by road from Enugu to Maiduguri when I was the chairman of the bar many years ago. I went from Enugu through Jos to Bauchi, Biu. I was amazed at the diversity in the country. And then you get to some places, you don't see any bush, you just see savanna land, grass for miles and miles and miles away. You know, it's in the south, we see a lot of the policing, you know. We don't see no policemen in those places. By road, 17 hours.
So,
17 hours.
Do you subscribe to some who think, at the moment, even as the laws are presently now, we are not even utilizing it because people like your colleagues, Mr. Falana as well, thinks there's a council. And that council, they can convene. They can take decisions. Yes. They can have arms for certain states or things like that can happen. And he feels we're not even doing as such, that even if we apply all of those, we'll get some results before we even get to the question of having multi-level policing.
I actually, I mean, I've had this conversation one-on-one with Mr. Femi.
Okay.
Falana, SAN, who I respect.
It must have been very heated.
He's my mentor. He's my mentor. I see him as a mentor in human rights issues. And but having said that, I agree and disagree. I agree that the laws have been underutilized, especially the Nigerian police Council, which is in Schedule 1 of the Constitution. It stipulated that we never hear about them. We never hear that they ever met. But we need multi-level policing to give proper and fuller expression to our federalism. We're a federal republic. And the states must be able to run their own internal security. I know the fears. I know what happened in the First Republic and the abuses. But do you know, the abuses of the first generation governors of this republic, the 1999 to 2007 set of governors, is far more than the abuses today. With each set of new governors, the principles of democracy begin to take root. And we find that if we had never had military truncation of democracy in 1966, today the policing would have been fantastic, and the state governors and the regional governors and premiers.
Yeah, how do you stop the police from being beholden to the governor using them as a puppet?
Good question. I will answer your question with a question. How did we stop the judges, state judges, from being beholden to the governors of their states? Something happened.
Have we stopped it?
The NJC, yes. The NJC. The states don't pay the salaries of the judges.
But they're still appointed by the governors.
Through a process that involves the federal government. There's a process involving the federal government. You can't even sack your CJ. No governor can sack his CJ. The NJC, which is a federal organ, must give approval, must give assent. So we need to transport the NJC, the principles behind the NJC, to the NPC. Fortunately, Schedule 1 provides for the NJC at Section 20 to 22 of Schedule 1, and then the NPC is provided for in Schedule 1 also, Sections 27 and 28.
Are we transporting it strictly? Because you say without input from the federal government. I thought we're trying to wean ourselves of that control.
I see the slight contradiction in my view, but we must federalize gradually. The way China is capitalizing gradually. You know, some regions in China, some federating units in China are capitalist, and some are still communist. And they gradually introduce capitalism. That is what we need to do at this stage. And that's what we did with the NJC. The NJC has, to some extent, weaned the state's judiciaries away from control by the governors. So the worst a governor can do is break down the neck of his CJ and say that judge is giving all kinds of unfavorable judgments, transfer him to one remote place where there are no cases. And that's the worst he can do. He can't sack. Okay, so now if we went back to Schedule 1 and looked at the NPC, the Nigerian Police Council, and we just take one or two thoughts from the NJC and put there. Already we have the NPC, all state governors are members of the NPC, and so on and so forth. The next thing we should now do is to put in a clause that every state is empowered to have their own police. You can decide to call them civil defense. You can call them gendarmes. You can give them a name different from the police. Every state is empowered to have their own now. But the chiefs of the state police will not be appointed by the governors without the input of the NPC, Nigeria Police Council. The DPOs, if you like, whatever we call them at that level, cannot be appointed or removed. So you find that, yes, there will always be people who will be beholden to the chief executive, but you can say no. When the chief executive sends you to go and harass his opponents, a person who has natural integrity can say, I can't do it, knowing that the man can't remove you.
Is the NPC functional now?
To the best of my knowledge and belief, it is not. I mean, you are in the press, and you are in the best position to tell me if you've ever heard of a president convening the meeting of the NPC. The last I heard of a president convening meeting of the NPC was when Obasanjo was the president. I recall there was a meeting like that. Since then, we've never had NPC convene. It is just there in the statute books. But convening, it's not enough. I'm suggesting that we need to tweak it a little and put in a clause in the Constitution allowing states to run their police, but remove effective operational control, as has been done with the NJC, from the governors of the state, so as to help the governors not to abuse the powers. But again, let me quickly add a caveat. The states are too small and too many. It's too small and too many. What we need really is regional policing. There are 6 zones in the country. Let no states have their police. Let each zone have their own. A different police from the federal. Federal government has their police. Every zone has their police. And the 6 or 5 or 7 governors of each zone will have equidistant and equivalent control over their police. The laws will be worked out, how they will operate, who will be in charge. Perhaps every year a governor has direct oversight over the police or something like that. But still have the NJC philosophy governing the police. So I would rather say a federal police and then 6 regional polices.
You know, I'm listening to this conversation, even though I'm supposed to be asking questions, and it just is like deja vu. We've been here before. We've had these conversations before. In fact, there was an entire conference done on this, at least while I have been a journalist. If there's anything we can remember that of 2014, where these matters were tabled. And one will have to ask, what will it take to jolt us to action? I mean, what will it take? Because we know, as it currently stands, that this arrangement that we have with regards to security, with regards to how we're construed, it's not the most effective. Some people have said, well, maybe it's because we've not really put the laws. I mean, Chamberlain has already made reference to that particular question and what some other lawyers believe about our Constitution. Some people have even made reference to the fact that the police, as we currently speak, they are grossly understaffed. We've not even employed as many people as we need to into a central police force. So is it really fair to accuse them of not being effective when we have not even given them all of the, we've not equipped them sufficiently for them to be as effective as they ought to be? So I don't know, when you look at this, what do you think needs to happen for us to be jolted into action? Because at this point, I think Nigerians, I don't know if they want to still have a conversation. I think what a number of people want to see and feel is that they want to feel secure.
Yeah. The problem with Nigeria is there are 2 forces. There are 2 contending and contesting forces in Nigeria. One is the arch-conservative forces that don't want you to touch Nigeria. Leave it as it is. It is the will of God, the will of Allah, if you like, the way Nigeria is. And then there is the progressive forces. So far, the conservative forces govern Nigeria. And even when a progressive is at the presidency, is surrounded by the conservatives. You see, our traditional institution in particular is both advantageous and disadvantageous. A leader who will move Nigeria forward, we have to be ready to incur the wrath of the traditional institution. Ignore them. Ignore them.
But even
and
the
insist on some things.
They're crying right now, aren't they?
Well, now to go to the very issues of policing, what needs to happen was the question you asked me for us to move forward. And since there was a consensus on it in the Jonathan conference in 2014. Now, what needs to happen is a president with vision and guts. A president with vision and guts. Obasanjo had guts, but Obasanjo did not see the point. As a soldier, as a military man, he couldn't bring himself, he couldn't see the point in further decentralizing the country. Perhaps now he has seen it. We need a person with the guts of Obasanjo and with vision to like a steamroller, roll over conservative tendencies.
You don't think this government can do it?
Frankly, I think that the man at the helm now, his antecedents as a pro-democracy activist, even a radical, even a restructurist, which in the last 20 years he has downplayed. But as the governor of Lagos, He had the guts to set up fresh local government since the constitution was ossified. The constitution could not be amended. Nobody wanted to. So he showed guts, and I know he can do it. Whether at this stage, having gotten to the apex of his ambition and the apex of the country, he's one of only 16 people, not even up to 16, who have been the president of Nigeria. Whether he's ready to rock the boat is the question, or whether he just have his day and go like others. And like the Ruben Abati suspicion of some supernatural forces over Aso Rock, the bats and everything, whether the supernatural forces that appear to hold this country in captivity and keep us retrogressed will allow. But I think that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown the antecedent, has the capacity to do it. And I think that his VP is very conservative, and that's where the problem will start from. Because his VP, I watched him on TV say before he became VP, let all those who want to restructure Nigeria go to hell. So you have a man who built a career around restructuring Nigeria as president, and a man who says go to hell to do.
No, can we look at that in the same breath as multi-level or regional policing as you speak when you talk about what do you call it, restructuring Nigeria? And they're two different things. Though.
Okay. Well, it's a matter now of semantics. I like that. I interpret multi-level policing as part of restructuring Nigeria, but perhaps I'm putting a cog in the wheel of progress by seeing it that way. Perhaps we should remove restructure from the conversation and say, what does Nigeria need in the midst of state failure, imminent state failure? That's where we are now, imminent state failure. And insecurity on the scale that we have in Nigeria today is clearly one of the marks of imminent state failure.
If I could just jump in at that. Yes. This small arms survey, they did a survey.
Small arms, yes.
On stats on small arms and light weapons.
Yes.
I think the governor of Kaduna was here with us, and he also did make some reference as to some of what he had tried to do while he was in Senate. He said in 2020, Nigeria had an estimate 6.2 million arms in the hands of civilians, excluding those of the military and law enforcement agencies.
Incredible.
So if we thought that we were still playing games with this, 6.2 million. Does the police even have this figure?
That can ground an army. That can empower an army. I told members of my household, wife and children and friends, I said, when you're driving your car, and anybody hits you, anybody hits you, don't come down to argue. Just reverse and drive away, because somebody could pull a gun and blow your brains out. That's where we are now. There are too many small arms everywhere. I said, don't bother. Go and fix your car. Don't get into it. That's it. Now, do you know, I have cases. I live in Enugu. I have court cases in places I ordinarily used to go by road. Example, in Warri. I'm embarrassed to say that to go to court in Warri, where I used to drive from Enugu to Warri, I fly from Enugu to Abuja and Abuja to Warri. I do not dare go by road again. After my last experience going by road to Warri, I had an awful experience on the way.
Wow.
Where people had strewn nails on the highway, and my car went over the nails, and then I looked in the bush and I saw these people with their cattle looking like they're waiting. They're waiting for you to stop. I told my driver, don't stop, keep moving. Fortunately for me, I looked in there. And another time I was coming to Abuja by road. Sometimes I like traveling by road, read newspapers and books I've been longing to read. That's what I enjoy doing. Only to get to a point on the highway after Abaji, and this is before kidnapping became so bad, and I saw that there was nobody else on the road. I told the driver, slow down. And I said, slow down. Young men began to jump out of the gutter between the two lanes, and began to chase after us. And that's when I noticed young men in the bushes, all facing the bush and looking back. Insecurity everywhere. The time has come for us to think outside the box. We need to be better policed. And I am a proponent of returning to the First Republic principle, where the policing was devolved down to even local government. I know that it was abused, but we have thrown away the baby with the bathwater. We have infantilized the federating units. What has happened is that we have said to the federating units, you can't do this. You can't do this. So we are infantilizing the federating units. It's like a father who refuses to allow his children grow. Your child at 6 years old, you treated him in a certain way. That child is now 30 years old, and you are still infantilizing him. The federal government must release the federating units. Let there be mistakes. Let mistakes be made. We will grow out of it. After all, let's look at America. In the days of the agitation, racial agitations, Martin Luther King and so on, you remember the story in Alabama where Governor George Wallace refused to obey the instructions of the federal government, President JFK. JFK says schools be desegregated. It was within his remit as the president. Desegregate all schools. And George Wallace said, never. I won't do it. And so the federal police in America, FBI, had to escort a black girl to a certain school. They escorted her, and the state police or troopers, or whatever they're called, were there to resist. And JFK says, if you don't phone George Wallace, I will declare a state of emergency in your state if you don't allow the girl to go in. And so he called his troopers and they stayed aside, and that girl went in, the first black girl to attend a white school. If a state or a region or zone, geopolitical zone, abuses their police, the federal government can do something about it. Hey, governor, we hear you've arrested your opponents, you've arrested the Speaker of the House, you keep doing that, release all of them. We have credible intelligence that you are doing that on political grounds. Release them. And the man dilly-dallies in releasing them. The federal government declares a state of emergency. The security of the citizens of that state it cannot be guaranteed with this man there. Moving for 6 months. If the federal government wields the big stick on the governors, I tell you, the governors will handle their police, the state police, under their control with care, knowing that they can lose their office for 6 months.
Also speaks
so
to whether or not.
About it.
Yes. My sincere apologies if you can hear me, Mr. Kariwe. Perhaps one of the issues to consider on that score would also be whether or not such things will be politicized, because perhaps that's one of the issues that people have had with the idea of state police in the first place, the fears of the whole thing being politicized. I love the fact that you went back to the First Republic, where we had the local police at the time. Now, at what point? Because there are those who would also say that even if there's going to be abuse at the state policing level, the state governors themselves have a responsibility to ensure that the local governments themselves are active. How about that for starters? Because there are those who believe that even the state governors themselves that are asking for autonomous police authority under themselves, they have refused to release the reins of influence they have on the local government. So even the local government policing that you are suggesting will never see the light of day under the governors who have refused to release them, from their own influence.
Yes, these are some of the problems we are faced with. And there is no problem that cannot be solved. Men have gone to the moon. Men have created mechanical birds that can fly 20 hours in the air and land. Our problems can be solved. It is incontrovertible that the state governors have unacceptable control over the local government. But these are problems that should be solved. And I believe the federal government has a role to play. I believe that the federal governments, with the exception of President Obasanjo, the federal governments we've had have been too laid back with the excesses of the states. I believe in wielding, excesses of the states. I believe in wielding the big stick on the governors. If a governor will not allow his local government function according to the Constitution. I think the president has a duty to invite the governor and say, I instruct you to obey the Constitution for the health of our democracy, for the strengthening of our institutions. And if a governor will not, if I were the president, I would declare a state of emergency. And the state of emergency can be explained. There's no shortage of good reason for declaring a state of emergency. I will do that. And if I did that in one state, 35 states will toe the line. And I'm not asking the states as the president to bow down before the federal government, obey the Constitution. Let's go the apron strings of the local government areas. That's what I will do.
Now, well, another thing. Okay.
Something else. Yes.
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Are you saying something?
No, go ahead on that same issue.
Something else I would do. My idea of what we need to do is a bit different from America. You know, America has their federal police, their state police, their county council police, their county police, and so on. But what I'm thinking we should do in Nigeria is rework the Constitution and donate to the federal police authority over offenses of 3 years imprisonment and above. Donate to the state police offenses of between 6 months and under 3 years. That will be their jurisdiction. And then local government, any offense which in the statute books is for 6 months and is under 6 months, the local government should police those ones. In that way, we free the police to do whatever they have to do.
Now,
the federal police has authority over all offenses of 3 years imprisonment and above in the whole of the country.
Well, just one last thing from me.
Individual states, and remember, I have expressed a preference.
Yes.
For the zones. I prefer regional to states policing. Let the 6 zones have their police. Let the zones have look after offenses of under 3 years and above 6 months, and then the local governments the rest.
Well, it's gladdening.
But
yes, sir.
Where we are today, we are in danger of state failure because the policing has failed. And no matter how you arm the police, no matter how you fund the police, no matter if you employ 5 million citizens into the police force, I think that the basic structure is wrong. That the police is supervised from the headquarters.
Well, Mr. Kariwe, perhaps that's one of the issues. My apologies if you don't mind me butting in. Perhaps one of the issues is the responsibility not just of the National Assembly, but of the state houses of assembly themselves, which, as you know, many people believe is under the control, so to speak, of each of the governors in their various terrains. Now, the address of the reinstatement or the emphasis being sent from the governors is to the National Assembly that they should give them the authority to have state police. Now, that has been difficult over time. The issue of local government autonomy by the state governors themselves has been contested by the governors over the years. Something needs to give. What must give? You talked about us enforcing the Constitution. The people who have sworn to abide by the Constitution, many people, such as yourself perhaps, have insisted that they have obeyed the Constitution in breach over the years. Who should be compelling who to enforce the authorities, the tenets of the Constitution?
Well, first of all, let me say I disagree with the governors. I think I'm probably repeating myself. The governors want to have operational control of their own police. I say no, let us have rather regional policing, 6 geopolitical zones. Each zone should have their police, and no particular governor has control over the police in his zone, but the 6 governors in that zone, or 5 governors, or 7 governors, as the case may be, will jointly and severally, collectively be in control, subject to my suggestion on the Nigeria Police Council, MPC, being restructured after the type and order of the NJC, which gives NJC some operational control to limit the powers of state governors over the judges. But now you asked me, who is in charge of enforcing the Constitution? How can we get the governors to give local governments their constitutionally stipulated autonomy? I think I said it before. My answer is the big stick. The president of the country, the buck stops at the table of the president of the country. If anything goes wrong, it is him. If there's a riot, if there's violence in a remote local government area in the country, yes, the governor has a say, local government chairman has a say, but sometimes the president drafts in troops. Remember, under President Jonathan, he had to declare state of emergency in some local government areas in the northeast. That was far removed from him, but he had to do that. So my view is that governors need to be told in no uncertain terms that it is a breach of national security, a potential breach of national security if the local governments don't have their autonomy.
Just quickly, why do you think that Abuja and Amotekun are not having the bite which a number of people thought they'll have?
That's horrible. Just yesterday, I was listening to my boss, Akeredolu's video, God bless him, so rest in peace, where he was lamenting, why won't Amotekun have arms? And the people they have to deal with, the people in the forest, have arms. And remember that the perception of Nigerians is our reality. The perception, not helped by the fact that General Danjuma himself, an institution like General Danjuma, says that the military is in cahoots with these people, the bandits. I'm sorry, but former chief of army staff, former minister of defense. Right. So what we need at this point is the regions, the states. Okay, and Amotekun is not a state thing; it is a regional thing. Yeah, they need to be armed. Why give them authority with one hand and take from the other hand? We need to arm them. And if there's an abuse, I've given the example of JFK and George Wallace in the United States of America. If the governors abuse their police and begin to use them as private armies,
there's a way out.
There's a way out. The president declares a state of emergency.
All right.
That's the way out.
Well, I have to thank you for coming on. Ikeazu Akarewe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and also the convener of We the People. Always a pleasure to have you on.
I'm glad to be here anytime.
Yes, indeed. So business will be coming up next, but we'll have a little stint about some background concerning what has been done even up until today about this call for state police.
Good morning. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm Ini John Mekwa, and we have a lot of business to do this morning, so we'll just get right into it, beginning with what's going on in the grains space. Chicago soybean and corn futures they fell on Tuesday and were near 3-year lows as forecasts on rainfall in South America bolstered expectations of ample supplies. Wheat slipped as declining Russian grain prices maintain pressure. Let's look at the numbers there. We see soybeans is down 0.3% at $11.89 for a quarter of a bushel. That's for soybeans. The U.S. Department of Agriculture cuts its Brazilian soy harvest forecast last week by a smaller amount than expected and raised global supply projection to the highest on record. We also have for corn. Corn was also down 0.2%. The price dropped to $4.29 for half a bushel. Remember that Brazilian beans are trading at a sharp discount to the U.S. market as abundant supplies flow to external terminals. Now, let's go to the oil space and see what's happening there. Prices rose slightly on Tuesday on fears of Middle East tensions amid supply disruption, but uncertainty about the pace of potential U.S. interest rate cuts and the ensuing impact on fuel demand capped gains. Looking at the numbers, we see that Brent is at $82, a good state for Nigeria. You know, this is our mainstay in the country. $82.07, went up 0.1%. WTI also gained, but obviously, as usual, is lower than Brent, $77.02 a barrel. As we know, this is sweet and easier to refine. That's one of the reasons why it's higher up right there. Now, let's see the factors affecting this. Now, the conflict in the Middle East has kept prices elevated, but worries about interest rates limited price gains. The New York Fed has said that a January survey of consumer expectation is expected to be out today. Outlook for inflation a year and 5 years from now were unchanged, with both remaining above Fed's 2% target. If inflation worries delay Fed interest rate cuts, that could affect oil demand, and of course that will affect price. The U.S. inflation data is expected later on today. British inflation and Eurozone is expected on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. Market participants await industry data on U.S. crude inventories, which is due later on today. Another factor which in the coming days would most obviously affect the price of global crude oil is from Russia, because a chunk of the vast fleet of tankers that Russia uses to deliver its crude oil is grinding to a halt under the weight of regulation of U.S. sanctions that might be starting to have tangible effects on Moscow. About half of the 50,000 that were supposed to, 50 tankers that the U.S. Treasury began sanctioning on October the 10th have failed to load cargoes since they were listed. This is according to ship-by-ship tracking of each one by Bloomberg, the latest to be targeted in that area. And we know that once this supply from Russia is cut off, then obviously global supply is affected, and this elevates prices. Well, back here in Nigeria now, the UK Minister of Business and Trade, Kemi Badenoch, says that the UK is committed to bridging trade deficits with Nigeria through the enhanced trade partnership, which will be signed with Nigeria today in Abuja. She revealed this at a reception in our honor in Lagos.
This is one of the things that the Enhanced Trade and Investment Partnership will be signing tomorrow, is hoping to help deal with. The UK sees Nigeria as a country of enormous potential. We have a long-standing history, and one of the best ways that Nigeria can reduce that deficit is by increasing its exports. So looking at what we can do in order to help Nigeria export more, this is very good, especially when there are foreign exchange difficulties, amongst other things. So one of the things that I've been discussing today today is the difficulties operating businesses in Nigeria. There are global economic challenges which every country is facing. Almost every country on the planet is dealing with very high inflation or inflation that's much higher than what they're used to. And these are the sorts of things which will discourage investment. But there will be country-specific issues as well. And tomorrow, apart from signing the ETIP with Minister for the Minister for Trade, I'll also be meeting other government ministers to see how we can work together to help create that good business environment for British business, which will probably benefit other countries as well.
Says that she will help to build that investor confidence in the country after that signing. Well, during the same event, the Nigerian Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzokanisi, the host in this case, said that when signed, the ETP will make Nigeria a more favorable partner to the UK.
ETP is actually enhanced trade and investment partnership between the UK and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it's the first of its kind. And I think we should give ourselves a warm applause for that. And we know what having a trade agreement or investment agreement means. It means that more money will flow into Nigeria. Everybody say yeah to that. And hopefully we'll see more trade happen between the two countries. We have been doing a lot of trade in the past, but now it's about to go on nitro. So now we're going to make UK, and the UK is going to make us a more favored partner in trading and investment.
Well, any legal thing to boost trade and increase FX flow into the country, of course, is welcome. So later on, that signing will be done in Abuja later today. And of course, we'll bring it up to you here on Channels Television, especially on our business program, so you don't want to miss that. But one glaring truth that's facing all Nigerians at this time is the issue of the high cost of living, and of course, how it's affecting, or, well, I guess you feel it from the commodities, price of commodities. I had a bag of rice about 70,000 naira, and it doesn't look like it's going down in spite of the announcements by the president, the release of grain, and some state governors have also made given directive. But I guess we would have to wait and see how that goes. Well, let's talk about the cost of living, the price of commodities, and some other salient issues in Nigeria with senior economist with financial derivatives company, Dumebi Oluwole. Hi, Dumebi, good morning.
Good morning, Annie.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're a woman. So, I mean, when we talk of the price of commodities, I'm sure you feel it firsthand. You feed your family, you go to the market, take the children. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's subsiding.
Yes, unfortunately, it isn't. And this would likely be the case for the next few months, simply because we're still battling issues with food production. We've seen from some northern states going on a protectionist stance, meaning that they are going to prioritize their produce for their indigenes first before sending down to other states in the country. We're still having issues with logistics costs simply because petrol prices and even diesel prices are skyrocketing. And this is, and most of the trucks that bring food into other states in the country are diesel run. So that also feeds into their costs, feeds into the cost of food items. Essentially, the issues that are causing low agricultural productivity have significantly increased in the past few months. And this would likely remain until we see some significant strides from the government to actually address these issues. And for the layman or for the average Nigerian, average consumer, the increase in commodity prices will still continue. I think the final issue feeding into this is exchange rate depreciation, and this is coming into the price of or feeding into domestic commodity prices through the high importation costs. The import duty on the exchange rate for import duty has also increased as well to reflect, the actual market rate. And it moved from around, I think, 950 naira to $1 to over 1,200. So now that exchange rate depreciation is feeding into the import costs for commodity items, and essentially this upward trend in food prices would largely continue.
Now, IMF is giving a lot of advice. First, they said that our reserve will drop to about 29 billion, and then they're asking CBN to raise about 2 trillion through OMO bills. Obviously, that's to mop up cash and maybe deal with inflation. Do these strategies sound like what can bring succor to the common man?
So I'll talk about it in two ways, because there are two aspects to actually addressing the rise in commodity prices in Nigeria today. The first is what the IMF is speaking to, which is on the monetary policy side of things. And the approach to this is to mop up excess liquidity in the system. Why this route is extremely important is because we've seen an increase in cash in circulation, and it just goes off of the back of economic theory, where we say where we define inflation to an extent as too much money chasing too few goods. So we know that commodities in the market are in short supply, but there's also an increase in cash in the system. And this happened from the Naira redesign that took place in Q4 2023 into Q1 2023. There was an influx of new Naira notes alongside the old Naira notes. And we did see this uptick materialize in the total cash in circulation. Now, whether people are actually using it to spend so much is another thing for another day, because disposable income is low. But we do know that there's an influx of cash in the system. And one way to actually reduce the impact of that on prices, or to stabilize prices, is to mop up this excess liquidity. And issuing OMO bills does that from the CBN side of things. Okay. And also the CBN removing the cap on the standard deposit facility also does this. So basically the idea is encourage people to bring in money to invest or to save more, so that there's less cash in the system that could drive up prices. That's what the IMF is speaking to from the CBN side of things. Okay. But I wanted to, it seems you have a question just before I go on.
No, we're just out of time. That's
I see.
Okay, but you can just summarize in less than a minute.
Okay, summarizing, fiscal and monetary policy consolidation is important. The structural issues on the fiscal side of things need to also be addressed alongside these contractionary monetary policy measures to actually bring down prices.
All right, Ruby, thank you so much. We'll certainly have you on Thursday, and I'm sure we can, broaden on that conversation. But thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, now we go to what we're discussing next, which is investment opportunities, perhaps in the real estate. We have joining us to discuss this Dr. Stephen Akintayo. He's the chairman, GTEX Holdings. And I know you've been hearing a lot from him. His latest move now is in the United States. He acquired about 40 acres of property in Houston, the United States. And he's giving maybe Nigerians, not just Nigerians, but investors opportunity to buy into this and also to own green property. We know now energy is very important. So when you talk about green and smart estate, and then you also look at the provision of power, then it becomes really important. Dr. Akintayo, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. I love your new studio.
Oh, thank you. You haven't been here in a while. You've been doing virtual. You've been missing.
It's lovely. I love this.
Thank you.
This is good.
Thank you so much.
Class.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So first of all, I think we should clear the air when it comes to real estate investment, because recently in Nigeria, we had news and incidents. We've seen videos on social media about fraudulent activities around the real estate investment. Some people gave money, they don't get allocation. So this, of course, is a source of fear for, unfortunately, Nigeria is already on corruption side, and then you now have this, so what's going on? You are in the estate, what's going on? How do you assure, people who are interested in what you're doing that it's clean, your investment is secured?
So, I have to be honest. It's easy for, and I've said this to a lot of our colleagues, it's easy for when issues happen with another company, for another company to come and say, well, we are saints, we are not like them, when in reality it's an industry issue. And sometimes it's not even about fraud or anything of such. Like in the case of the one that went viral, Lagos State got involved. It wasn't a case of fraud. It was a clear case of, you not paying all the money that was required. So what the amount the man claimed he had paid wasn't even what he paid, and he was committed to a particular amount and he had not finished paying. They cannot allocate to you.
So, or maybe perhaps the real estate company, they make this thing very juicy and people miss out the small prints. So at the end of the day, those things come up.
I think we have a fundamental issue of affordability, right, when it comes to real estate. And it's a major issue. And it's a government issue. It's not real estate developers issue. Because, for example, I got a 70% institutional funding for a $150 million project. Pre-approval in 24 hours. Right? You won't get that in Nigeria. So, literally, as an investor, I don't need to look for a whole $150 million to do a 40-acre, over 400 housing unit. No. I just need to bring maybe 30%. In fact, some people who are probably U.S. citizens could drop as low as 5%. And you can get that entire asset. So we don't have that in Nigeria. If you want to do real estate, you have to bring the entire money. Now, that's not developers' problem, because assuming the banks also give developers, because in this case now, the investor or whoever are in charge of whoever I'm buying property from, for example, in the U.S., is getting his full money. But it's just that the bank will bring some, me, the investor, I bring just a token. So until CBN, the federal government look for a way to make sure that the house you are buying is the collateral. Because not this one, I have to bring my parents' certificate.
So is that why this is CATI USA and not CATI Nigeria?
Exactly. So we're having that issue where people then feel like, okay, I've paid X amount, you've not allocated to me, right? But in reality, I also can't allocate to you because I don't have the full money, right? So that is creating an issue generally in the sector. Also, we have liquidity issue generally in the sector. So it's a major challenge, in the Nigerian real estate sector, but it's largely affordability. So sometimes even developers are having to now promote, okay, deposit 50,000, you're a landlord, all those kind of stuff, because people really can't afford to pay a lot more.
And mortgage is not helping. But anyway, let's not go into all of that. Let's talk about your CATI USA, yes. That you're having. Tell us about it. And interesting, for me, is when you say it is smart.
Yes.
Because, we have climate change. We know how hot it is now. And all those little things connect to, the climate change at the end of it. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so, it's a 40-acre property, and we've done a couple of open house. We have several big guests, who joined us in the U.S., for the open house. But we're building between 400 and 500 units. We're in the approval phase, so hopefully we get approval for more than 400. And, of course, it's going to be it's a community that will have its own driving range in terms of golf, aquarium, it's a mall. So you have everything. We even have an artificial lake that's going to be there, and it's green and smart. If when completed, it will be the largest in U.S. as of today.
The green and smart is very interesting. How do you hope to do that? Is it solar? Is it...
Yeah, so we're doing a combination of solar and wind energy. So if you look at the 3D, I don't know whether they're playing it, you will see surrounding the artificial lake is the wind turbine. And then on each of the roof, we kind of created like a solar farm on every of the roof, that we're having, right? So, and if we need more, we will have land to put more as well.
And this is only for the big guys.
Again, that's the beauty of the U.S., right? Affordability is there, right? So there's financing, there's mortgage for investing. For us, we've secured 70% institutional funding for it. It's a $150 million project. Our existing companies also put another 15%. So we created a debt syndication, filed with the US SEC, SEC, or what do they call them? Security Exchange Commission in the US. And so people are able to invest, and get returns annually.
So, but it's not just people in the U.S. that can invest.
No, people can invest from anywhere in the world. In fact, for the housing, we've not launched that yet. That will be coming up in August, where people can now buy into the house itself. But for now, it's just raising the funds, you know, because you need to have all your funds ready even before you start construction, right? It's not like you start construction and not hoping, oh, do I have enough money to finish it? No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, so what you are calling out for now is investors,
yes,
not people who want to leave.
No, for those who are buying it in August, we'll be back and we'll announce for those who want to buy.
What's happening in August?
Is for the launching for those who want to buy into the housing, right? So because for the housing, we're not even selling directly. We're partnering with, what's their name again? They're one of the largest in terms of real estate brokerage in the U.S. And we had to do that because, again, America is a very litigious country, right? So if you don't work with a big brokerage firm, you can have everybody who bought from you suing you over, oh, the pipe was, something was wrong here, something was wrong there. So even in terms of selling the house itself, it is having to go to the #1 brokerage firm in the whole of Texas, right? And so they are handling that. But we'll still do like a launch of that as well.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., yes.
But aren't you encouraging Japaul? I thought we're looking for how to bring people back home, bring investment back home, bring forex back home.
Yes, this is good, right? Part of the challenge, and we're not addressing this issue, part of the challenge Nigeria has is, for example, if you look at Shell, Chevron, these are American companies. That's part of the problem. They come here, they do business here, they repatriate their money back to America, right? So to even solve the FX issue, you need to have Nigerian-owned companies all over the world who are able to then bring money back to Nigeria. The Chinese are doing that, Indians are doing that.
I know Indians, they're mainstays.
Yeah.
You know,
remittances. Yes, we are not doing that because all our people, even when we Japa, we only focus on just get a job. I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. And we know when we talk about, you know, personal finance, the cash flow quadrant, how really for you to become financially free is through investment or through owning businesses. So for us, for me, this is not just about, and that's part of why we're talking about it, is to encourage our people. First of all, you don't need to close down your business in Nigeria if you want to expand internationally, like our people do. You see people shut down their business here and then relocate and then start
all over.
You know, ridiculous kind of job. You know, you don't need to do that. You can go into run your business here. You can have partners, you know, who are on ground to partner with you with what you have here, while you then see how you can expand that internationally and still grow that as well. Because, you know, this Japa thing, we can't stop it. And if we can't stop it, how do we manage it in such a way that it's adding value to us as a nation, to us as a people, and even our reputation are respected? I was saying to people, I said, if we have had enough Nigerian businesses, Trump would not have been talking to us the way he was talking, right? And that's just
because he would know how much we are contributing to the economy.
Exactly, and that was his argument. His argument wasn't that you shouldn't come to his country, it's that what are you creating jobs? Because if you are coming and because you are people of color, you are willing to take cheaper pay, right? It then means that white Americans can't get those jobs, and those jobs are going to immigrants, right? But if you are the one creating the job, now you are respected anywhere in the world. When we moved to Dubai, I was sharing the story of how we moved to Dubai. I said, can I even see, you know, as a beginner, I was, you know, proud, like, oh, we Nigerians were one of your biggest investors. When they gave me top 10, we're not there. Top 20, we're not there. Because even when we then do investment, we don't do it legitimately in such a way that the numbers can be captured that, yes, this came from Nigerians. So, and that's why they treat us anyhow, because there's no data to show how much are we adding. You know, in fact, we have not even started construction. The congresswoman gave me a congressional recognition in Houston, you know, last month during our conference there. But that tells you that's what they want to see. They want to see people coming in, creating jobs, bringing opportunities, and that's really what
So you are a representative.
We are ambassador. You know, even though they don't give me an award in Nigeria with all that we have done, but they are giving us even before we start construction. You know, so but again, it's part of what I hope Nigeria evolves into. that our politicians know that entrepreneurs are your partners. If there's no job, you're in trouble. It's not that the day they see me on TV now, they start sending me tax letter. You know, we need to understand how, you know, it's a symbiotic relationship between entrepreneurs and politicians. We need each other to grow the nation.
All right, Dr. Akintayo, I wish you the very best. We know that it doesn't matter what it looks like. Nigerians are survivors. You have a lot of Nigerians coming to you.
I know.
And not the government coming for
I know.
All right, Dr. Stephen Akintayo, thank you so much, Chairman of GTEX Holdings. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
All righty. All right, now, just before we go, I'll hand over back to the Sunrise Daily team. Let's do a bit of market now. Access Core, the sad news over the weekend. By Monday, the stocks or the share price had dropped about more than 6%, losing about 26 naira, a huge one. No wonder that the parent company of Access Bank has now appointed the most senior executive director, Mrs. Bolaji Agbede, to head the company. That's a couple of days after the death of Dr. Herbert Wigwe, who is the company's founding group CEO. Ms. Agbede is to hold the position of acting group executive officer, according to a statement that was signed by the bank, joining the League of Women Banking CEOs. Dr. Wigwe, of course, we know the story, the sad one, celebrating his life and times already, you know, for such a great man. But let's talk about what happened to the stock prices or the share prices yesterday. We see it drop. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the company had to ensure there was no vacuum, because uncertainty is never a friend of money or investment or investors. So that's why we saw that drop. 23 naira, 20 kobo is what it closed with after it dropped 6.26%. It was the highest stock traded yesterday, 24.90 million, but profit taking was upon it. Let's have Abdulrashid Momo now from TRW Stockbrokers to tell us what really investors are saying and thinking around this. Mr. Momo, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Morning, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Is it safe to say that it's because of a level of uncertainty after the sad incident? Is that why we saw profit taking on the stocks yesterday, Access Core?
Well, let's just say coincidentally, yes, there was a form of panic sale yesterday, but the stock actually, I wouldn't say it recovered. As we speak now, the market is up. Access Corp is up by about, at least trading about 23, 25 now. But you see, you need to know that the untimely death actually came when the market was actually, we've been seeing corrections in the market for the past, I think, 2 weeks now. So, and as we say, Access actually has good succession plan, actually naming a new acting as it goes. But what I'll say, sorry for being like that, the death of the past CEO actually came in when market was actually doing, a lot of correction, because yesterday a lot of the banks were on the downside.
So now that there's at least an acting CEO, it shouldn't affect sentiment, investor sentiment in any way, I guess.
No, at all. You see, one thing you need to know is that Access Corp is a strong brand. Yes, we expect, we always tell people in the market, for every opportunity you see for stock price going down, always take advantage. Because as we speak now, Access is trading, as I said, overall bid is about 11 million compared to about 4 million offer now. And note that, if you look at it, their financials are still very intact from the Q3. So the death of their past CEO is not likely going to change what it's already coming up soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulrashid Momo. As you said, the brand is a strong one. Obviously, over the years, has won the confidence of investors. Thank you so much for your time this morning. All right, now we hand over back to the Sunrise Daily team. Back to you guys.
welcome back to Sunrise Daily. So we're moving on to a matter that, well, there was protest yesterday about this subject matter, which we've got both persons here with us. They are here to explain to us what exactly is going on. I had to struggle with it a bit. It was really long. But let me start with you. Margaret Ibiku is the chairman, Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, Public Complaints Commission chapter. And then we also do have Iyembe Chile, who is the National Chairperson, Women Commission of Hassan as well. I hope I got that right. That's
yes,
it, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Right.
Good morning to both of you. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Morning.
Now, there was some protest, of which both of you were there. The images we also did have and still do have in terms of how you say things are not being done properly. So maybe you should just start with explaining to us, what was this protest about in the first place?
Okay, the protest was basically between the staff and the management of the Public Complaints Commission. And for you to really have understanding of what has transpired or what is going on, we will take a few steps back. Public Complaints Commission was created in 1975, but during the military era, and it was under the National Assembly all along, according to the Act. But during the military era, when there was no leadership of the National Assembly, it was taken to the presidency. But when democracy returned, precisely in 2012, there was a circular from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation asking the Public Complaints Commission to return to the National Assembly in all issues, financially, budgetary, and all ramifications. And that means that both the staff, everything, were now moved to the National Assembly. But since that time, we've had this gap. All those years from 2012 to now, we've had this gap. Where does the Public Complaints Commission draw its funding from? Who is responsible for funding the Public Complaints Commission? And it has also affected the welfare of the staff because we've had repeated cases of shortage in salary payments. So the latest crisis now is about the change of salary structure. It took the National Assembly 9 years for the Senate President then to write to the Public Complaints Commission asking for its staff to now migrate to the legislative salary structure based on the circular and the return to the National Assembly. And after this is 3 years after that circular, the circular is yet to be implemented in full. And what has happened is that last year, when the economy started going, inflation started happening, the removal of fuel subsidy, the federal government tried to come in for its workers. There was a 40% increase in peculiar allowances. We couldn't assess it. Neither could we assess this new salary structure. According to the management of the PCC, they have been short-funded, according to them. So they are not able to meet up with the payments of this salary, despite it has received approval from the approving authorities. The Salaries, Income and Wages Commission has approved this salary scale for the staff. And despite that, this year again, we've had the 35,000 that was also awarded to federal government workers to cushion the effect. The staff couldn't also assess it.
Did they say why?
Yes, because we couldn't say where we were. Were we under actually the legislature? Were we also actually under the executive arm of government? And according to the management of the office, they have applied. They have really gone to see if they could get out this 35,000, and they've not been able to. So the staff were patient enough, being that we are trained people that work with the Public Complaints Commission. You become very patient.
Now you're complaining now.
Yes, we become very patient because you hear people's complaint every day and you try to solve people's problems every day. So you become a very patient person. So for 3 years, we've been patient, believing that 2024, because all through last year we had industrial dispute, went as far as Ministry of Labor, did everything that we had to do to see that this problem is solved. And we came into 2024 thinking that this problem will be solved. And yet again, we were confronted again by the management saying that they still do not have enough funding. And while we were still talking about the issue of funding, the issue of status also came up. Because we were at the meeting, what led to the protest now, we were at a meeting last week, and one of the principal officers of the National Assembly came up with a position that the Public Complaints Commission does not belong to the National Assembly. So the people are worried. There is a circular from 2012. There is an act saying return to the National Assembly. And now you're telling us, and all these years, it will surprise you to know that the last minimum wage, it took us 2 years, almost 2 years before we could key into it, because there was nobody responsible for us.
Under what platform did you key into? National Assembly?
Yeah, we eventually had to go on strike, block the gates of PCC nationwide, and then the government had to intervene and ask the Minister of Finance to release funds. That was how we were able to assess the last minimum wage after. So this problem, like I said, has been a running battle. Who is responsible? Who is responsible? And if you know the position of the Public Complaints Commission, the Nigerian Ombudsman is not an office that nobody should be responsible for. It's not an office that should be going around begging for funds. So these are the issues. And as of yesterday, the staff had enough, because it's been a battle for how many years that we've not had anybody speak to us and clear issues. Well,
so we have tried to get across to the National Commissioner, but at the moment they say they won't speak, but they'll put up a statement till up until this time. No word, no statement to us either. So you're not alone on that one. But what is your perspective on the matter?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. My perspective is this. The act is there for us clearly. We have been returned to the National Assembly. They said financially and in every way. They came up with a meeting which we met with the leadership of the National Assembly, and some things were explained. But that is that. They said we're not under the Service Commission, so we do not draw their funds from them. But our funding comes from the National Assembly. I remember the last administration when we were on this battle. And we're following closely as the union with the then chief executive and their commissioners. And they went to the National Assembly and they told them, we're under you now and we're lacking funds. And the National Assembly, in presenting their next budget, said this commission is under us, under the legislature, and we do not have funds. It was because of that funds were now given. Although our leadership says that the funding is not enough, that is what they have said, which we try to agree with them. But in the course of understanding, the staff are getting worried and tired. As we're having our Congress yesterday, what led to the closing of this gate was, while we're having our Congress to brief our members on what transpired in the National Assembly last week, Wednesday, we saw another circular that came out that we should now be coming to work 5 times a week. It was 3 times because of the conditions, and they've not been able to meet up the 35,000, which other ministries and parastatals have been enjoying. The 40% we have not met, so they cut it 2 days off for us so that we can, come today and, like that, 3 times a week. But when we saw that circular, we're like, we have not sorted one problem and we're getting into another one. So the staff... Is it
the one signed by Modupe Kolawole?
No.
That's a different one.
No. This is signed by our present...
So was that protest spontaneous?
Yeah. We wouldn't say it was spontaneous, because we had an agreement with them that if the meeting on Thursday at the National Assembly did not work out, we didn't come up with answers, and that we didn't meet with the Senate President, we will proceed on strike on Thursday. But then the meeting, we did not meet with the Senate President. We did not have any answers. But yet again, because we've been trained to be very patient, we are mediators. We were like, okay, let's still be patient. Let's see how we can manage the staff and the members of the union to be patient till next week. Since they have told us that they will have series of meetings this week and get back to us. But then we come on Monday and there are so many threats and, the management is all fire and brimstone and threatening the staff. And the staff said, look, we've had enough. This is how many years of the threats and not getting what we want. And it's just okay. It's enough. Let's shut down.
I'm just, fascinated by the fact that first, at the leadership of the unions, you have 2 women. You know how women can be very patient until they can be patient no more. So, I sincerely hope that the management will do something because it's not going to be very funny to have women on rampage. I'm just looking, though. The fact that you've said that you have been very patient and that this is actually quite provocative. When you look at the circumstances, for years it has been very difficult for government, because basically this is a government problem, to decide precisely where they would like to house, the Public Complaints Commission, something that is very, very important. So I'm wondering, as somebody as a Nigerian, first, what would you like? Where would you like to be housed? Do you think that it is proper for you to be at the National Assembly, or would it be better for you if you were under the executive arm of government?
Well, it's not about what we like. It's about what is the right thing. Nigeria runs a legislative ombudsman. There are different types of ombudsman, the executive, the legislative. Nigeria runs the legislative ombudsman. And it is clear, the act is clear. The National Assembly recommend people, they screen people, they appoint them, they swear them in. Everything that has to do with the Public Complaints Commission and its leadership comes from the National Assembly. So at this point, it's not about choice.
It's about what is proper.
It is about what is proper.
So it is proper for you to be at the National Assembly.
It is what is proper.
So why is it so difficult then to just regularize your staying at the National Assembly?
Oh, no, there are different schools of thought. Some people are saying, being that there is the ombudsman, we should be independent. There's a level of independence there. But then we also know that there are 3 arms of government all over the world, and that you must identify under one arm of government. Yes. So we are under the legislative, and we expect people to know that we can't, no matter how independent you are, you must identify under one arm of government. So for us as the legislative ombudsman, the Act says we are from the National Assembly. There's a circular from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, a 12-year-old circular. And we're wondering, we're also asking if in instances, because I don't know if there are other agencies or government organizations doing this, but we believe that when circulars are passed, such important circulars, the government should have set up a committee that will bring this division, the separation and the returning. But I don't think anything was done to that effect. So it's left this lacuna for 12 years.
It doesn't also appear that the National Assembly has prioritized your own welfare and the welfare of your commission, even as it is residing within their own with their own remits now?
No, they have not. They have not. Because if you see yesterday when the staff were protesting, they were calling on Senator Akpabio. They kept shouting, Akpabio, Akpabio, come and listen, come and answer us. You can't have a commission. If you open the National Assembly website right in front of you, institutions under the National Assembly, the Public Complaints Commission is the first you will see. And yet you don't fund us. This year they gave us 770 million to run an office that has 38 offices, 37, plus the headquarters, and then we are also in the local governments. Now we also investigate in places where we need to go across rivers. Because if you're in Bayelsa and somebody is complaining from where he came on a flying boat, you have to go to where he is complaining from to attend to him. So it's a vast institution, and the Nigerian government knows the role that this institution has to play for the country to remain sane. Because this is where the common man can come to. When his head is full and he doesn't have money in his pocket, he can walk in here.
We're completely under them because our budget goes straight to the committee level. We are one of those parastatals or commissions that don't take our budget to the floor or just to the presidency to present. We go straight to the committee level, which means we're under them and they are aware of that. That's why we have the ethics and privileges overseeing us.
I'm just a little surprised because the National Assembly, has first-line charge also in the national budget. So if they have a first-line charge,
like the PCC.
Where is this talk coming about from, underfunding of the PCC?
That still brings us back to the question, who funds the PCC? Because if you ask the National Assembly, they'll tell you we don't fund them. They also have a first-line charge. The PCC at some point, being confused in this whole process, also got into a first-line charge. So there's a whole lot going on. And the staff feel, look, if this is a prestigious institution, this is an institution that fights administrative injustice, which means we should be the model of how administration should work. And so if this issue is happening, we don't know where to draw funding from. You go to Ministry of Budget, they say you're under National Assembly. You go to National Assembly, they say we don't have anything to do with it. In fact, the little we gave you, we just gave you to support you. And so I think the government, from the president, everybody has to sit down and understand who is responsible for the Public Complaints Commission.
Wasn't that stated in the laws establishing it?
It was stated, but all these movements up and down, they are in a better position to understand because the staff are telling you as it is. We are telling you that for 12 years, we don't know where we draw our funds from. Who is responsible for our financing? Like you said, the National Assembly should be able to fund us because there is a circular to that effect. But they are not doing that, and they also have their own reasons why they are not doing that. And then you go to the executive and they say, no, you don't belong here. There's a circular of 12 years that has sent you back. But then we also know the executive brings what we call MTEF, some part of the budget. So it's all muddled up and it's all confusing. And that's what's leading to this whole lingering crisis that has been going on for years. Because we solve one problem, the next year we'll get into another one.
Your union is affiliated, I can see clearly you're wearing the NLC logo.
Yes.
So this should have been something that is also on the front burner of the NLC. How has it been taken up by the leadership of the NLC?
Well, the PASA national body has, I'm sure the NLC is aware of this, but how unionism works is that they will leave the affiliates to at least try to solve the problem, which is what PASA National is doing. They sent their national officer here. And when they can no more solve the problem, perhaps at that stage it will now be escalated to become a nationwide NLC issue.
How many members of staff are we looking at here?
We're looking at 4,000, almost 4,000, 3,990 staff all over the Federation.
3,990 staff have not been paid for how long now?
We have been paid in percentages.
For how long?
For all through last year, we couldn't get the approved salary structure. This year, we got a percentage of it this January. So that is it.
Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain and Malcolm. Let me ask you, Mrs. Beku, would it surprise you to know, for instance, that there are a number of Nigerians who are hearing about your organization for the very first time, the Nigerian Ombudsman? I'm pretty sure you are not surprised. So that leads to the question, what's the structure? How is the commission, the Public Complaints Commission, structured? Who is the head of that commission?
Okay. The structure of the Public Complaints Commission is that it has the Honorable Chief Commissioner, and then it has 36 commissioners and the FCT commissioner. These commissioners are appointed by the National Assembly for a tenure of 3 years, renewable another tenure of 3 years. And then we have offices all over the country, in every state, down to strategic local government in zones in the state. We have offices. And I always tell people, maybe the latest class will say they don't know about Public Complaints Commission, because when they have problems, they easily get lawyers. You can easily say, okay, I'll call my lawyer. But the regular Nigerian who doesn't have a high income, when he has a problem, he knows where he wants to go to, the Public Complaints Commission. So we are actually a very busy office doing work. But then because of funding too, we can't afford to give ourselves the kind of publicity we need. If we had the funding, we'll be here on channels and then you'll be publicizing what we are doing. But it still all boils down to what is obtainable, the issue of funding that has also been a very major problem. But like I'll tell you,
yes,
the
just a second,
Nigerian,
madam.
The Nigerian on the street, in the marketplace, in places you least expect, in the mechanic workshops, they know about the Public Complaints Commission, because we reach them at the grassroots.
Yes, the Public Complaints Commission, my apologies,
is clear and that
just
the doors are open. You don't need a time to come to the Public Complaints Commission.
Yes.
You can come in at any point.
If you can hear me, madam, I hope you can hear me. Yeah. The interesting thing is, as you said, the Public Complaints Commission is not just for a section of people, it's for everyone in Nigeria, I would assume. Now, I wanted to know about the headship of the organization, because naturally, if they are appointed by the National Assembly, and as Malcolm said, they have first-line charge, then they shouldn't be complaining that they don't have any money at all. Exactly how is the National Commissioner of the Public Complaints Commission, how is he taking this news? The fact that, as you said, there isn't enough money. Just in the course of the week, we heard that about 90 ministries, departments, and agencies have not been paid as well. Exactly what is the National Commissioner doing about this particular matter?
Well, the issue of whether we have enough money is also another thing that we'll have to is a two-way thing. What is the the Chief Commissioner doing? Well, he's doing his own best to see that he can attract enough funds to the commission. And so that's just what I can say. I think in his own right, he's doing his own best, according to him, to see how he can attract funds. For 3 years, we've been at it. But the people are also wondering, there are pertinent issues. There are things that have also caused problem and rift between the people, the staff and the management, because we keep wondering, most times we have to make sacrifices for, capital projects to be executed. And we all know that in governance, especially in public administration, personnel costs is the first thing that has to be settled.
The reason I'm asking these questions, well,
not able to understand.
It's understandable. Just 1 second, madam. Yes, just 1 second, if you can hear me.
Projects. So these are some, like I said, these issues are hydra-headed.
It's understandable, madam. Just 1 second, if you can hear me. Let me ask Mrs. Chile, this same is a related question. Now, is this organization being supervised by any commissioner? I know that you have mentioned that you go straight to the committee. Is it a committee of the National Assembly that supervises the Public Complaints Commission, or is there a particular senator or House of Reps member that supervises the functions of the commission? Mrs. Chile, can you hear me? Yes. Is it the National Assembly, is it a senator or a member of the House of Representatives or a particular committee that you mentioned that supervises the commission and ensures that the needful is done? Or the responsibilities of the commission has to be scaled up somewhere else?
Okay, thank you. It's the Ethics and Privileges Committee of the National Assembly. You have the senator who is the chairman of the Ethics and Privileges. And when you go down to the House of Reps, you also have a chairman, Ethics and Privileges. So these two people, public petitions, these two people oversee the runnings and affairs of Public Complaints Commission. They are the overseers.
Good. So I'm asking that so that we know exactly where the buck stops about this particular issue. Are they aware of this protest? Are they aware of this 3-year debacle?
Yes, they're very aware of it. We had a meeting with them. When we talked about the leadership earlier on, we had a meeting with them last week, and they promised to look into it, and they are on it. And we're meant to have another meeting which they promised the Senate president would have to be there so that we can put this to an end, because they have tried their own bit, but they said there's little to which they can do. It still boils down to funding, and the only person that can come in is the Senate president. That's why you saw our members yesterday calling on the Senate president to come in, because we don't know how to see him quickly. But when there's this media presence, we believe that this will get to him and he'll call us to the table to sort this thing that's been lingering for 3 years once and for all.
Yes, one last question from me, Mrs. Chile. What are the consequences if the president of the Senate or the National Assembly as a whole does not wade in quickly to this issue? What are the consequences?
The consequences are we'll stand action. We'll continue what we've... Right now, our offices are all locked. The headquarters in Maitama is locked. 36 states, local governments are all locked. We are not working. And public complaints is the hope of the common man, the last hope. They can't go to court, so they always come to us with their issues. So it's so sad that we are the ones now complaining, because we need this to be able to help them. So if the Senate president and who needs to talk to us does not get to us, then our gates remain locked. We are not working because we can't be lying to ourselves.
Well, talk to us about this data, this PCC performance data. We see that between 2015 and 2019, it says only about 87,461 cases have been resolved out of the 209,745 reported to the Commission. And that's according to you personally, actually.
Okay. Most of our cases are against government agencies. And you see that most of the ones that have resolved, if there is a breakdown, you'll see most of them are resolved in the private sector. It happens with speed of lightning. But then you're pursuing a government agency. To say, why did you sack this person, or why haven't you paid this contractor? Most times they wouldn't even reply. Most times you will have to summon them before they will come to you. So most of the cases you see there pending are mostly the cases against the public sector. they take quite a little time for you to resolve cases in the public sector because the government proves to be the most recalcitrant of respondents that we have. So that is why you see that's little gap there.
So those who should be obeying the law and enforcing them are the ones who are doing what ought not to be. All right, again, just to restate that, we did reach out to the National Commissioner so that they can speak to these issues, but no response. State Commissioner, right?
Chief Commissioner.
Chief Commissioner, no response as of yet. So we hope that they will address all of these matters. Well, we thank you for coming on. Margaret Ubeku is the Chairman, Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, Public Complaints Commission Chapter, as well as Yembe Chile, who is National Chairperson of the Women Commission of the same chapter. Thank you both, and we hope this is resolved as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, so Polika, Pagubolom, Otokba Dixon, and several others, we do see your messages. We appreciate all of you. Please keep your comments coming through. We'll, of course, we'll look to them tomorrow. But thank you for... Oh, okay. We can. All right.
Can we?
That was about electoral reforms. So, all right, not to worry. We'll see them, but we're out of time. Apologies again. So thank you for watching the show today. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Goodbye.
Don't stretch the patience of a woman already stretched. Thank you for watching this morning. I'm not going
to say anything about that. Have a wonderful and beautiful, productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Big tech wasn't really here. What have they seen in the past 10 years, which is making all of them want to put their HQ here?
If you're a business that sees